I want to start with the border, that just broke a couple of days ago, the latest numbers. And that's really, I don't even know what to say about where we are right now on the border. The news is so dire. 302,000 immigrant encounters in December alone. In December alone, the worst ever, Ben. Put it in perspective.
So 300,000, those are enormous numbers. I have to say the single best political move, maybe of all time, is all these Republican governors sending illegal migrants up to these various blue cities, and all these blue city mayors suddenly being forced to understand that illegal immigration is actually really bad. Not when it hits the 10,000 person South Texas town, when it hits their giant city that is supposedly incredibly wealthy and capable of enormous social services. It hits Chicago, it hits New York. And then all of a sudden these people are like, illegal immigration is really, really bad. One thing that I talked about on my show today was just that this is going to be the year when a lot of chickens come home to roost. The illegal immigration chicken is going to come home to roost for Joe Biden in a very, very serious way, because everybody left, right, and center, I mean, look at his immigration numbers. They understand that leaving the border open to this extent is just insane. And it began literally when he became president. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they spiked in January 2021, and they've stayed at these extraordinary levels ever since. 300,000 people showing up on the border just in December alone. These are insane, insane numbers. And again, I think even people in blue states, in blue cities, are beginning to feel the impact of that. It was nice when you could relegate the illegal immigration problem down to a bunch of red states along the southern border. Now that a lot of those people are moving into the interior of the United States and into cities governed by Joe Biden's supposed Democratic allies, you can see that this is going to have a pretty significant effect on Biden's administration. I would not be surprised to see Biden make some moves to shore up the border, simply to shore up the moderate flank of his own party.
Yes, he's going to have to do it. Here are the numbers. So as I mentioned, in December, over 300,000 immigrant encounters, highest monthly total ever recorded in American history. Since October 1st, there were more than 785,000 encounters, the highest first quarter on record. This is all per Fox News. January, we had 157,000 last year. Then in September, we had almost 270,000. And now by December, it's up to 300,000 migrant encounters. This doesn't include the gotaways, the ones who, ran and we didn't get them. Not to mention the ones we just don't know about. And then just by way of comparison, we went back to 2019, to be fair, because we excluded 2020 because we had the pandemic, we had all the special rules. And so let's be fair and compare apples to apples, Trump to Biden in a non-pandemic period. December of 2019, there were 60,000 border encounters under Trump. Now 302,000. And listen to this, Ben, to your point about how Biden now has no choice but to do something about this. Not that he cares. He clearly wants this, but he's miscalculated politically, because in a political year, he has to pay attention to the numbers. And the Hispanic poll numbers, my God, just look at Hispanics. People think Hispanics might be in favor of this. Maybe it's like somebody they know or they have empathy for. No, they're very, very against this. In 2020, Joe Biden beat Donald Trump, according to the latest USA Today and Suffolk University poll, 65-32. He was beating Donald Trump. So it's almost twice, right? Or is it? It is twice. It's twice what Donald Trump had, 65-32. Today, it's a Donald Trump advantage, 39-34. Hispanics have swung entirely over to the Trump camp. Yes, they care about inflation. They care about all the things that we all care about. But listen to how they feel. This is according to Monmouth. Earlier in December, how they feel about this issue, immigration. Do you approve or disapprove of how Joe Biden has handled the following policy areas? Immigration. Approve, 30%. Disapprove, 67% of Hispanic voters disapprove of how he's handling it. So what do you make of all of it?
I mean, it's insane. The number that you cited before about Trump's numbers versus Biden there is really quite fascinating, because what it suggests is not that everybody swung over to the Trump camp, it's that they left the Biden camp. So what that means is that they're up for grabs. Right, because the first stat you read was 65-32 in favor of Biden, which means that Trump was at 32. Well, in this election cycle, what you say is that Trump has the advantage up to 39. That's a 7-point gain. What you're really seeing there is a 30-point drop-off for Joe Biden among Hispanics. And this is what you're seeing all over the place for Biden, this massive bleed in voters. Now, the question for the 2024 election, of course, is going to be how many of those voters, quote unquote, come home, right? How many of those people are expressing dissatisfaction with Biden before there's an actual opponent on the ballot, before you get down to. But bottom line is this. I think that when it comes to the election, virtually everybody has an opinion on these two guys. It's going to be exogenous circumstances, extraneous circumstances that decide this election, which is why Biden has to do something about the southern border. If he does not, then Trump's just going to run roughshod over him with regard to the southern border. It's his number one issue, Trump. It's always been his number one issue. And how better to run against this than to just point at Joe Biden and say, this guy has opened the border up wide. I mean, those stats that you were citing there, Megyn, about where we were in December of 2019, 60,000 illegal immigrants coming across the border in 2019 December, 126,000 single men came across the border in December of the last year. Okay, twice as many single men as humans came across the border in December of 2023 as they did in December 2019. Those are astonishing numbers. And we don't know who any of those people are. A lot of those people, I'm sure, are going to be on the terror watch list. A lot of those people are not coming from the Northern Triangle. A lot of those people are coming from Africa. Many are coming from Asia. Many are coming from the Middle East. And the border needs to be shut, and everybody knows it, which is why you got to say that Biden's either inability or unwillingness to turn to his left flank and just say stop, it's actually politically insane. I understand that it's his unwillingness to do what needs to be done on the border that is holding up the thing he says that he wants the most right now, which is this Ukraine aid package, Israel-Taiwan aid package. The thing holding that up, Republicans are willing to give that to him if he will solidify the border. And he's been saying no, which makes no sense. He could get all the things, right? He could cave on the border. He could then turn to his left flank and say, listen, guys, I needed to do that because I needed the Ukraine money. And then he could turn to the American people and say, listen, I worked with the Republicans in bipartisan fashion to shut the border and try to neutralize that issue. The fact he hasn't done that is so politically crazy, it boggles the mind.
The number of illegal migrants who came into the United States last year, they're saying now at this point exceeds the birth rate in America. Exceeds the birth. We had more illegals enter than we had actual American babies born. What's the thinking that those are the future Democratic voters? What is the thinking behind a complete sieve from coast to coast along the southern border?
Yeah, I mean, there's the cynical practical read, which is that these people are going to come in, they'll become Democratic voters after becoming wards of the state because they'll be on welfare, they don't have skill sets that are necessary to get jobs, and all the rest. That's the cynical political take. Then there's the ideological take, which is that somehow the United States owes it to the rest of the world to give everybody citizenship, which is totally insane. But there is a wing of the Democratic Party that truly believes that, which is that you have a right, and I believe the mayor of Boston actually said this yesterday, that you have a
we
right
have that, actually.
to immigrate
Let me
to the
play
United
it, Ben,
States.
and then I'll give it back to you. Let me play it. Here's Michelle Wu, mayor of Boston.
Every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter, and those policies have been in place for a long time.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's not true. I mean, you have the legal right to show up at a port of entry and then try to get in, I suppose. But then we have every legal and moral obligation to reject you if we don't want you here. And that's what it means to be an American citizen. There is that part of the party that truly believes that as well. And then there is this weird sort of globalist economic program that suggests that if we're not going to have babies in the United States, then we need to import a labor base in order to keep wages down. And that of course is ridiculous on its face as well. So there's a lot going on here, and they all cross streams. But the American people are not in favor of this. It's one of Biden's weakest points in the polling data. And again, I've never understood this about Biden's presidency. It makes no sense to me. He won the nomination being not Bernie. That was literally his program. I'm a dead person who's not Bernie Sanders. And then he won the presidency saying I'm a dead person who's not Donald Trump. So what people actually just wanted was a dead person, as it turns out. And then it turns out he gets into office and he's a dead person who's actually imitating every wild left-wing policy that he rejected when he was fighting Bernie Sanders. It makes zero political sense to me. He's going to have to wise up or he's not going to be president for much longer.
Negative dings on credit reports happen to all sorts of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understanding the credit landscape can be extremely tough, and spending the time to dispute and repair these so-called dings can be a full-time job. Good luck to you if you already have one of those or kids or anything going on in your life. For starters, you have to deal with 3 separate credit bureaus, which is a massive headache and unpleasant. It's also a common misconception that people with poor credit scores are just those who don't pay their credit card bills. These actually can be very hardworking people who are negatively affected by divorce, identity theft, medical debt, student loans, or some such thing. And they just don't have the time, or they're just too overwhelmed to fix it. But if you don't address negative credit items, they can haunt you for years to come. And when it counts the most, like getting a mortgage at a competitive rate. Well, the good news is that our sponsor, Lexington Law, wants to help. Go to lexingtonlaw.com and start today with a free consultation and review. Tell them Megyn sent you at lexingtonlaw.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.